Welcome to Stamp Camp Week of Webisodes. This is our annual tribute to all things stamping,
Yay.
and it's so named, yay, and it's so named because of Teresa Welch, because every year she does a brand new Stamp Camp DVD, and we have number 5 ready for you.
Hooray! And it is loaded with techniques, 57 techniques, 7.5 hours of video on this, and Teresa always is looking for something new and exciting to show you.
Yes, and we're going to share some of the very fun things out of her Stamp Camp number 5 DVD. Come play with us. And ta-da, there it is. Stamp Camp 5, and as you can see, 100 projects, 7.5 hours of videos, 57 techniques. And on the back, it shows you the 9 chapters.
Right.
So we've got Stamping Basics, which really just covers basic information, the different types of stamp pads, ink pads, and what that means for each different type. Fun with inks, and we've got embossing, watercoloring, embossing folders, stencils, dies and die cuts, acetate techniques, and other stuff, miscellaneous techniques, things that she couldn't kind of pigeonhole somewhere else. Right. And as a matter of fact, some of these we're going to be showing you.
I love that about this, that you can go to it, you can look up like heat embossing and look at some different inspirations just on that, which you're about to show.
Well, and this is what you're going to see. So each chapter is going to have thumbnails of the cards, and then it's going to have where the video is that you can just click that. Right. You'll also see instructions, and I'm not sure that there are any patterns with this particular one, but if there are patterns, they'll be there too.
What I like about this is that with some of these chapters, you're seeing 2 examples for each technique. Not on everything, but most.
Almost all of them, yeah, that you will see too. So that's just another benefit, and it's kind of neat to see that happen. And we're going to start actually with this card.
Wonderful.
So this is called Paper Batik. And as you can see, and we'll get a little bit closer so you can see all of those crackles, and that's really a hallmark of batik. Now, batik is usually done on fabric, but not for our Teresa.
No, so this has been done actually on patterned paper, and what's interesting to me is that first it was heat embossed with a clear gloss embossing powder. So there's a large stamp on there. You can see these beautiful flowers all over.
And actually, this is a solid stamp, so that also works very, very well for this technique. So just to let you see that these are solid images rather than outline images.
So taking a patterned paper, she stamped with Versamark and then embossed with that clear gloss embossing powder, so you can see right through it, and you can still see the pattern of the paper. Then before she adds ink to this, which she's going to add ink and do a resist, she does this.
You did that dramatically, didn't you?
So she said she crinkled it up, pulled it apart, and I don't want to rip it. She also mentioned that she used a little bit larger sized paper than she wanted so that she could cut the edges off if they tore. And then she said she wrinkled it again. And you really do have to get in and put some good wrinkles in there.
Yes, because that embossing powder is going to have a tendency to keep it flat. So you really have to be firm with it. Okay. Just like Gail's doing.
Okay, think I'm good?
I think you're good.
We're good. Then she said, now, there's what we were talking about. It tears a little bit on the edges, so it's nice to make this a little bit bigger, then you can cut it down. Then she turned it over and used a bone folder to flatten it out.
Okay.
So that makes it a little easier to work with because we're going to be adding ink to the front.
Don't want to iron it because of course that would melt the embossing powder.
So just use a bone folder on the back. We're good. Now I've got my craft sheet and I've got my paper here, and I have 3 distress inks. She actually used 2 different mini distress ink sets, and you can check the gallery for which ones those were, and then she chose the colors that she wanted. In this case, brushed corduroy, dusty concord, and pine needles. And then this is the applicator she used, which is great because you can remove these when you want to change colors. I just happen to have 3 to make it quick for me, so that you know.
And if you haven't already discovered it, I think the round ink applicator is just much more forgiving than the square one.
Right, you don't get such flat edges, those stark lines. Okay.
And you kind of start off the edge of the paper.
That I have, I want to make sure that I have ink on there, that it's picking that up. Start off the edge of the paper and start
just
moving
circular.
on.
Right. And that helps it just kind of bleed into the paper. And there you go.
Make it so that you can see here. And it really picks up on the, I can see it picking up, going away from the embossing, going around that flower, and really settling on the wrinkled areas of the paper, which gives you that unique batik look.
Right.
So I'm going to change colors here in just a second. We'll go from the purple. Let's go into that brushed corduroy. Put it over here, make it a little easier.
There you go. And you can just see how it there's just a magic to it, that it's clear and then it just pops up. Now the paper that was used, the pattern paper,
isn't that amazing?
It is a very light print, as you can see, and that really gives extra depth, I think, to the piece when it's finished. So that works just really nicely.
So anyway, there it is, with all the 3 different colors sort of blending together, and I would blend them together wherever possible, and you can work with it and get it just the right hue that you like.
And I think if you had a little juicier ink pad, you would end up with
a little bit darker,
little bit darker, right, and more defined images. Now, the greeting that was stamped was done with the layered cutting dies, as well as with the coordinating stamp that is shown right there.
So that's nice. So you don't have to bother with fussy cutting. You can just use that cutting die for that.
That just works very nicely.
So it's a gorgeous card.
Now, later in the week, we're going to have a day on Color Burst, but here's kind of a preview for you. And this is really, this is a very beautiful look. I love the idea of something in the background and black stamping on top.
I do too.
In this case, Teresa made her own stencil using the cutting die. This is the 3 butterflies and 2 shadows, because it has an outline combined with this cutting die.
We call that a shadow, that outline of that butterfly, and it cuts out a piece that looks like this. So these are the 2 pieces that cut out of your paper, and if you position them just the way you want, so here they were, we ran them through the die cutting machine just like that, and then we took this piece and we put it over a watercolor paper. Here's the piece that we, here's an example piece or sample. So this is placed right over that paper, and then the color burst is dropped right through that. And you'll see more of that technique later this week. And then spritz it with water, and when you remove it, you have just the silhouettes of those butterflies.
And then on top of those silhouettes, Teresa has stamped with the unforgettable stamp. And I have to tell you, I love this look. I think that you get that depth in a way that is so easy to accomplish and yet so lovely. So you might think about this, maybe stamping something in color and then doing these wildflowers on top.
Sure, that too. Or using other cutting dies. What other cutting dies that you have that you would like to just, I can imagine doing a large oval right in the center of something and then putting some flowers around it, etc.
You know, there's just so many things you can do. So it's just a beautiful, easy way to get this look. So wanted to show that to you. So Stenciling with Color Burst is the title of this. Now, Teresa has discovered something amazing, and I think it is literally amazing. This card, okay, you can see that there's cutting die, so there's pieces here, but look at behind here. That's been stamped, and it's been stamped with the cutting die. Now that doesn't seem possible, does it?
With a die cut.
Cutting die.
With the cutting die.
Yes. And what Teresa has done is she has used craft foam. So This is the cutting die that she used, the Hello Ferns.
And then here's a piece of craft foam. I want to mention there are two thicknesses that we found. Three thicknesses. One is a little thicker, more the type that you would think your kids would be playing with. One is pretty thin, and I've tried these both. They both work.
And let me tell you about the third one. The third is a really super, super thick. It too will work. It will get cut with the cutting die, so you don't have to worry about it.
Right. So take your cutting die, place it onto your foam, and run it through your die cutting machine within that sandwich the same way you would do cardstock.
Right.
And it will cut all the way through, and when you're done, and I have a sample of each here, you have this little die cut piece. So that's foam. It's also plastic or kind of rubberized almost, and it will hold on to the ink. And we'll see how you can attach it. First, you're going to put it on your acrylic block. I'm actually going to show you how to put the adhesive on there first. I'm going to use the repositional dots because you want to stick this on here. Figure which way you want to stamp before you do this.
And actually, like as you're saying that, I want to point out something. When I was taping the DVD, I used just a regular adhesive that comes on a roll. I didn't use the repositionable. I didn't think about it until after the DVD was done. So please take special notice of this, that a repositionable ink is going to work really well and save you a little bit of extra time in cleanup.
A repositional adhesive like this one. And these two, it comes off pretty easily off of the stamping block afterwards. So there it is on your acrylic block. That's staying on there. That's not going to go anywhere, and it's ready to stamp. So I have my paper, and I have a fluid chalk ink pad, and this is I just think this is amazing because with this, every cutting die that you have, you're going to look at it a little differently.
Yes, very much so.
And think, wow, I could stamp with that. I could stamp that in the background.
And anything to help justify our buying decisions is a good thing.
Press that on.
Yep. There you go. Isn't that gorgeous?
Gorgeous.
Absolutely beautiful.
And you could stamp another one of these or turn it over, and then you can stamp this the opposite direction. You can't do that with just any stamp that you have.
That's right.
But you can do it with these.
So here is what she's done on this card. All of these areas that I'm pointing to, so not the darkest and not the medium, but the lightest green has all been stamped using craft foam done with the cutting die.
And then setting those die cuts on top of there.
Right.
It's an amazing look.
It's just gorgeous.
Are you going to the inside?
No.
Okay, I wanted to show with those repositional with that repositional adhesive, I can just pull this off, and if you can see the little dots there, if you just rub those around with your finger, they really come right off.
Or take a baby wipe with that lift.
Well, this works too. They're coming right off. They just sort of roll around and they come off, and then you can clean it with a little cleaner if you want to get it extra clean. But it's not sticky after I do that. So
now here is, as we talked about, Teresa almost always gives us two options. Here is the second option in her stamping with cutting dies, and it is using this wreath cutting die. So it's a little more intricate. A little more open space, so you can see the cutting die on top. You can see it stamped underneath, so it just gives more depth to this.
But I love that, and I love the layering of those cutting dies on top. It's just a natural, so you're giving yourself a background to lay those cutting dies on top of.
I'm telling you, the woman is brilliant. And the smile was done with the 9 little words cutting die.
And I love that she cut it twice. You see, she cut it in a darker green and then in that ivory, so it gives you a nice little shadow.
Very, very nice. And on the inside, just some little light stamping of that wreath. Nice way to frame that the message on the inside. So way to go. Now, as you can tell, Teresa does a lot of experimenting, which is why it takes her a whole year to get another one. And what she was wondering is, could she combine heat embossing with dry embossing? Yes. And it turns out, by golly, you can.
You can. I was actually pretty amazed that she did the heat embossing first. So here is this beautiful butterfly, heat embossed
with glitter.
Purple glitz embossing powder.
And then she ran it through the machine with the embossing folder. So this is the leafy vine.
Right.
So that's an all over pattern. And look what happened. Look at that.
It's amazing
Isn't
to
that
me.
neat?
It doesn't. I don't see cracking in the embossing. That really surprised me, and I don't know if it's. I just think it's a really interesting look. It's a new way of looking at something.
Brilliant.
You've got that if you start with an embossing folder, you've got that all by itself, and then you're thinking, well, what can I put on top of it? And usually you're going to stamp on something else and place it
Right.
on top of it. This is great. You can just do it, run it through the embossing folder, and it's all done together.
Now, when Teresa was experimenting with this to go for the inside of her card, she inadvertently turned her embossing folder over. So this is the deboss side is on top.
Right.
So you can see that there's the indents are
So
showing.
that's a little
but it
different.
Worked. It also worked.
It works. I think the other one was just something that sort of looks a little more polished.
Well, it's
somehow.
just, yeah. So you get a couple of different looks. So
Right.
nice, you can do embossing. Oh, and more embossing. So
And more embossing.
heat and dry for both of them. Now, you ready for more experimentation?
Sure, and we're talking about embossing
We
folders.
are talking about embossing folders. This is a faux leather look, and it is pretty stunning. Now, well, okay.
Okay, this is pretty fun. We're going to start by embossing the folder on craft cardstock.
Right.
So you've got it embossed, and then you're going to take a brown ink pad and run it over the top.
Right.
Run it over that embossed
I'm covering
area.
up the finished part.
So
but you
just
can
take your
see.
ink pad and
Right.
run it over. It'll just hit those raised images. After that,
Then
you use clear embossing powder
clear embossing powder.
over the whole thing.
That
Just
is-
really,
that's it.
That's it. So just really press your Versamark into that image all over. You want to get all down in the lower areas and the raised areas. And then use the clear embossing powder. We have the Wow Clear Gloss. You just sprinkle it all across there, heat emboss it, and it really does look like leather.
Look at that. It's just an amazing look and so easily accomplished. Beyond that,
Yeah.
I think it's really brilliant that she chose to take a few of the pieces and do them on a lighter color.
Right,
And
pop them up
foam
individually
tape.
with foam tape. That's just a fun
Thanks
look.
a bunch. Grazie. Thanks and thank. So just a beautiful look on the inside of her card. Just a great big block of it.
A little bit
so
more.
Very, very fun.
Isn't that neat?
Very neat look.
I kind of like to cut out a piece of it and make it look like a belt buckle.
Going with the leather thing, are you? Okay, well, we'll do that maybe later. Now, Teresa also was playing with rubber bands.
Right.
She was playing with rubber bands.
Playing with rubber
Do you want to bring them
bands.
over?
Sure, the rubber bands.
Well, no, the acrylic block with the rubber
The
bands
block.
on it.
Oh, okay. There.
So what she did is she got different widths. Okay, this is off of broccoli, I think, and different things. The thing that you need to do is to keep them flat and do not overlap them.
That's
okay?
right. So, and I've laid them on here on just sort of randomly in different ways, and they are, now if we look at this one, it's not flat. It got a
Okay.
little twisted, so I'm going to grab onto it and
Yes.
make sure that it is flat.
Needs to be flat because what you're going to do.
There we go. There.
What you're going to do is you're going to use Versamark on those rubber bands and white embossing powder, clear embossing powder, whatever you want, onto cardstock.
Onto cardstock. But first she created a background, very simple to do. I'm just going to show that really
Okay.
briefly. Using two different inks, distress inks. She had black soot and peacock feathers. I got the black soot out of one of our mini distress ink sets so that I had both colors. And then you just press that onto your cardstock. There's the blue, there's a little bit of black. I think I want more blue than I want black, so I'm gonna add a little more blue right to the center. Okay, spritz that with just a little bit of water, and then you just take your paper and lay it right in there. I'm gonna press it down. This is a pretty quick process. And if you don't like it, if you wanna add a little more water, a little more ink, backwards, and then just press that in there again. Anyway, I would do that until I got the look I want, which is more like this. I needed to add a little bit more ink. And then when it's dry, you're ready to start stamping on there. I'm gonna move this around. So here's the piece I'm going to start stamping on, and I'm going to have Versamark, and there's the rubber band,
your tool,
stamping tool, and then I just start inking that up with the Versamark pad. Make sure I get all of those. This is why we need to make sure that the rubber bands are flat so that they give you that nice flat image that you're looking for. And then just stamp.
And you might be wondering, okay, well, how do you get that crisscross effect? Well, you're going to think this is good.
Okay.
You lift it up.
Lift it up.
Re-ink it.
Re-ink it. I'm
Wherever
looking
you put
for the
ink
Versamark.
And then you're going to turn your acrylic block or your paper, one or the other.
And ink and do it again.
Do it again.
So now you get that crisscross effect. And then you grab your embossing powder and go over that. One thing that Teresa mentioned that that I did not do was to add to use the perfect printing pouch before you start doing your stamping, and I think that was probably a good idea. It makes it so that it doesn't the static doesn't make it stick to the rest of the paper. Hopefully it just sticks to those images so you can see it on there. And so she does that in silver, and then you can do it in white, and after you heat emboss it, it will look like that.
Right.
It can look like that. It depends on the orientation in which you put your rubber bands, but I just think that's a fantastic look.
And then what she did was to use dazzles on top, and these are the Zen Dragonfly dazzles. So very fun. It's really just a very interesting technique, very easy to do, and by playing with different colors, I think you'll have a really good
Stamping
time with
it.
it.
Things that you already have, like
Things
rubber bands.
Right. Now, she did that with the inks behind here.
Right.
Her second version is this one, and it's with color burst behind it.
It is, but the color burst was actually, in this case, instead of creating that background and then using the stamping technique, you're going to do the stamping first.
Right.
And you're going to do it with, she either did it with
white
clear or white,
Mm-hmm.
and then right onto watercolor paper, and then she used color burst on top of that, and then you can just blot it off of the white areas as much as you like.
And you'll notice that these rubber bands are very linear.
Very
so they're
uniform.
Yes. Whereas the first set is very random and more at angles. Two different looks.
Right.
And there's our Hello Ferns cutting die back again. So just works really nicely, really fun.
I like that one too. That's great.
To add that. Now the last one we're going to show you, and again, there are 57 techniques on the DVD.
Right. So this is just a little smattering of what's on there.
This is called a sparkling dryer sheet.
Yes, it is.
Now this, as we get in close, just want you to be able to see, can you see that texture, and can you see the sparkle?
Isn't that interesting? So here, next to that, let's put the image of that stamped and colored butterfly before and after. So here it is.
Quite a difference.
Right. And so you're really looking through, it makes it look a little bit hazy, but it really does have that sparkle there. And that comes from the Cool Diamond microfine glitter.
Well, it mostly comes from a used dryer sheet.
And that too.
So what she is doing, well, this is the stamp on butterfly wings. And by the way, with today's webisode, there's a special offer on this stamp with the DVD. So just wanted to tell you that.
That's a good one. That's worth it.
Yeah. So what she's done is she stamped it. Go ahead and bring it in.
All right, so here is the image stamped on cardstock. She colored it in just a little bit with Spectrum Noir pens, and this is from the Pinks set. Made it a little darker in the center, a little lighter out toward the edges. And then you've got a dryer sheet.
It must be used.
Yes, and she said it's best if you run it through your dryer a couple of times to get all those chemicals out. And she said if it's too wrinkly, you can iron it as well. But here's the one that I have, and you're going to spray this. I think the best way is with spray adhesive, and so first I'm going to spray it to make sure that it's going to work here. Yeah, it's going to work. It's going to go up direction. Just get a thin layer of that on there, and then I'm going to remove that from the box, and I'm going to place it on my craft sheet, adhesive side down
Right.
onto that image. And I'm going to make sure that there's no bubbles or anything like that, and I want to press it flat. Now that sticks it to the image. So there it is in place. And Teresa said at this point, she just took the cool diamond glitter and just sprinkled it right on top of it and felt that there was enough adhesive behind it that the glitter would stick. And all you have to do is rub it in place with your finger. So I'm going to rub it around, get it all stuck to that, because the dryer sheet is kind of porous. It's got a lot
Very
of holes
porous
in it, and so the glitter is going to go right through it. That's the dryer sheet sticking to the craft sheet. And I can shake some of that back off. There we go. And there it is, a nice sparkly little image, and simple. I mean, that's done. That's on there, that's going to stay on there, and you can just cut off around the edges.
And then she put it onto her card. Well, of course, she matted it, put it onto her card, and it just, I love the texture of it. The muted is kind of, it's more muted than vellum would be, but by using the Spectrum Noir, you've got a beautiful look, and it's got the sparkles just dancing there.
Just beautiful, very simple. So save your old dryer sheets now and use them on your cards. I also love the doily in the background, which she used a couple of different pigment inks and just used straight from the ink pad to just sort of ink around on there.
That's a nice technique to remember, because it's going to give you, again, some texture back there. Any color you want, very easily done.
Right.
So this is just a taste of the magic of Teresa and all the different techniques that she's given.
And Stamp Camp 5, and it is a computer DVD, so it's going to work great on your PC, and Mac and PC compatible.
And I will tell you, she's working on Stamp Camp 6 as we speak.
Oh my gosh.
Please join us tomorrow and every day this week, because we have so many fun things for you, and it is our celebration of all things stamping.
Great. See you tomorrow.